ladies, and welcome to my podcast. Thank you to each of you for accepting my invitation. An idea came to me a few months ago about doing an episode on motherhood to explore the entire spectrum of motherhood through an open and honest conversation with a group of women, each with their own distinct and unique challenges and experiences. And most of us didn't know each other at all until about 2 hours ago. But I'm sure that nonetheless, we're going to have a really good and amazing conversation. And on that note, even though I'm hosting, my vision for this conversation is to have a roundtable discussion. So you can jump in at any moment, ask each other questions, or expand on what you're saying. And because we only have an hour and a half and so many questions to go through, we're gonna jump right into it. So to get started, I'm gonna go around the table and ask you to state your name, how many kids you have, and just a fun fact about yourself, or a short description of your experience with motherhood right now at this point in your life. Vicki, you want to go first?
Sorry. Perfect. You know what side? Sure. So thanks for inviting me. For myself, I think, I have two children. One that's 11, and my other one would have been 10. She passed away when she was 13 and a half months in 2016. So basically, if I would describe where I am now in motherhood with my daughter who's 11, in one word, I think it would be finally. Because it's so long that the early age just takes so much out of parenthood, a mother and father, both. And I just feel like now I'm at a place where I'm kind of reaping what I sowed or what we did as a family. And we're seeing the funniness in her. We're seeing her personality, and she's able to communicate, and we laugh together, and there's a little bit more of a friendship that's kind of there. And then you still have the segment that's like parenting. So. But the parenting side is kind of diminishing slowly. It's more of a bond that's just there. It's beautiful. Something about me, I'm a prankster. I love to play pranks on people. I love to laugh. It's my therapy. And I think I chose the right partner in life because he makes me laugh every day.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Melis?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here. And so I'm Melis, and I have a 6-year-old son. His name is Theo. He's on the autism, he has autism, so he's neurodivergent. So one thing to explain my motherhood is that it's divergent. I'm having a very alternative parenthood with my husband because most of society is not made for kids that are not neurotypical, which we can get more into. So, and that's why technically I only have one kid. And so a fun fact about me is I grew up living in 8 different countries. And I'm originally come from a very traditional, like an artistic background. I studied art for 8 years. So I always say this, that everything in my life prepared me to have a son that didn't fit into a societal norm.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's really sweet.
Great.
Wow. Nancy.
Wow. Beautiful. My name is Nancy, and I have 3 little ones, 4, 6, and 8 years old. I think what would describe my current season would be beautiful chaos. It is. Our household is chaotic. It's wonderful. I wouldn't have it any other way. There's noise, there's mess, there's everything, you name it. But just beautiful chaos. And I think one fun fact about me would be that I despise coconut. I can't smell it. I can't eat it. I can't breathe it. I just despise coconut. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah. No coconuts at the stable.
Nope. No, absolutely not.
And Julia.
I'm Julia. I have 2 children. My son is 7 and my daughter is 4. If I had to describe motherhood in one word, it would be a roller coaster. And a fun fact about me is I don't like small talk. I like real conversation. So I struggle with that in life, like having small talk. I'm not good at it, but I'm really good at getting deep. So that's a fun fact about me.
I relate to you on that last point.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yes.
That's why you created this.
Yeah, exactly. So did you know, did you always know that you wanted children?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, I was 18 and I was like ready to get married and have kids. Oh yeah. I don't know about you guys.
For me, no. It was the opposite. I think I got married at 33. And then my husband really wanted to have like 3 or 4 kids. And I was like, oh, but I'm an artist and I don't have money. Like, that doesn't make sense. But then when I got pregnant, it really shifted for me. And I really was like, this is probably one of the best things I've ever done. So yeah, it still is. Yeah.
Amazing. So you embraced your role.
Definitely embraced it. Yeah, in a lot of multiple ways. But if at 18 you asked me, I was like, no. But yeah.
For myself, yeah, I come from a family of 4 kids. I'm the second one in the ranking. And yeah, I always grew up and took care of my 2 younger sisters. And then I also chose a profession in teaching elementary school. So I was very, very open and willing and wanting to have children for sure. Okay. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time that you felt like a mother?
Yeah. I think it may sound typical. I guess it's the first time you feel the kick
Yeah.
when you're pregnant.
Uh-huh.
I think that's when I really, I felt, okay, it's happening. Like there's a little something in here. There's a little something, it's there. You know?
It's no longer just a concept.
Yeah. That was like the original one. But I mean, there's many steps where you're just like, you click and you always have this like preconceived ideas, you know, of what motherhood is based on how you were mothered, you know, and based on what you see in the media, TV, movies, etc. So as you go along, you kind of piece it together like, oh, I had that moment. Oh, I had that moment, you know? So it's like, there's different kinds, you know? Yeah.
What about you?
Sorry, what was the question? I'm sorry, I'm so nervous.
You're not all good. Do you remember the first time that you felt like a mother?
Yes, it was actually the first time I held my son.
Oh,
Yeah. Pregnancy, I'll be honest with you. I enjoyed being pregnant, but not like how everybody talked about it and this. Like honestly, I felt like shit the whole entire time that I was pregnant. I didn't enjoy it. I had insomnia. I was like, what are these people talking about? Like it was just, I didn't enjoy it, and I feel bad saying it, but
that was your experience.
it was my experience. But the moment that I held my son for the first time was the most magical thing I've ever experienced in my life. Yeah. So that for me was, it was, yeah.
I puked for 9 months.
No way.
I was like, that was my daughter.
I totally get
Yeah.
it. I puked for 9 months.
I loved it. I'm sorry,
Yeah, me
guys.
too.
to
I
meet
loved
you.
I loved it.
I'm the unicorn on the rainbow.
I get it.
We need one. Honestly. It's good. We balance each other out. You know what? With the motherhood thing, I think there's different degrees of feeling like a mom. I think definitely when the baby is on you, but I think also the first time they call you mama.
Yeah.
And then the first time they find comfort in you. Yes. For me, that was like exponentially, yeah.
Melis?
I think it was, I agree. Pregnancy was really rough for me. So that was kind of just like a hurdle I had to get through. My birth was really traumatic. I didn't get an emergency C-section, but Theo was born choking and had to go to the, what is it called? NICU?
NICU, yeah.
He had to go to NICU. So I didn't see him. He couldn't get on me when I gave birth to him, things like that. But then I remember that night my husband wheelchaired me to hold him. And that was the moment for me too, is when I held him. And, you know, when they're little, they just grab your finger, you know, that finger grab.
So tight.
So that's when it clicked. And then, you know, you go through postpartum and you go through different things. So I think feeling like a mom isn't like an instant spark. I think it's the process of your old self dying and a new self being reborn. So there's different stages to that, exactly like you said. And for me, one of the ones was like around 4 months when they start to smile and giggle and be interactive and they just look at you and it clicks, you know? So that was one of the moments too. But I would say definitely like being a mom is a transitional phase for me, especially. Like it took a long time to establish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you had a traumatic birth. So has Julia.
Yeah.
We're like,
Yeah, I know.
Can you tell me a bit more about what happened?
Sure. So Theo has a really big head. He still has a really big head. My husband says it's from my side of the family.
The blame game, right?
Exactly.
When you have a kid, it's like, that's your side.
Yeah,
always.
always. True. Always. So I think they kind of knew. He was actually really good. He was very average. He was not below average. He was not over average. But I think towards, like, I was just about to kind of give birth and they were, checking everything out. And they were like, what's your shoe size, head size? And then at that point, I knew something was up. They're like, we're going to go for a normal delivery because it's Canada, like they're really
Very,
adamant about
very,
normal
yes.
delivery. But I have to say, like, as bad as it was, I'm still glad I delivered normally because your body heals still much faster than a C-section. Like
Okay.
my body definitely could take it. But so when he got stuck on the way out, and because he got stuck, he basically swallowed some of the fluid that was in my body, in the placenta. And so he started choking when he was born. So at that point, they knew his heart rate kind of changed and it was phenomenal. Like they rushed in and they cut me open, like full on from front to back, and they pulled him out and you could hear like he was having a hard time. He couldn't cry. He was making a noise. He was really a different color. And they called in the nurses, doctors, like emergency. And, but literally like right there, we started to hear he was good. So it was just like a precaution. Like they were like, we're going to keep him in NICU. I think he like tore off the IV like within 1 hour. So they're like, he's fine. Like he's more than good. But it was a bit traumatizing. It was obviously not a bit. It was very traumatizing for me and my husband because everything was going good. It was a normal birth and just like most women and most cases. And that's what my gyno had told me, which is so true. He said, we know a lot now than we did in the past, but it's still a very humbling thing to be a gynecologist and for women to give birth because at any moment something can happen and change and you can have the most normal pregnancy and something can change.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like that. We felt very humbled actually. But he was fine afterwards.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Did the experience haunt you for a long time?
It did. I think it definitely made the postpartum depression a bit worse because especially when you start to do the feeding, I wanted to do baby-led so bad, but I think I had a huge fear of choking because he was born with the choking noises. So every time he would choke, I was a little bit like stressed. It didn't help with the postpartum either because I think there is something about when the baby comes out of you to on you, to breastfeeding, like this is a whole cycle. And even if it's a bit delayed, you're a bit just like, not quite there. So I would say, yes, it did haunt me a little bit. It's definitely a part of my decisions as to why we haven't attempted a second child.
Okay.
It's one of my decisions, but also because I had, a difficult pregnancy where I puked a lot. So yeah.
Okay. Julie, I'm going to invite you to share a little bit about the experience that you encountered when you gave birth to your daughter.
Okay. So I had what is called an amniotic fluid embolism. So basically that is the water in the sac got into my bloodstream and caused me to go into cardiac arrest.
Oh my God.
I was announced like clinically dead when they took my daughter out of me, and everything had to be done very quickly. So my life actually was saved because the anesthesiologist was in the next room because every minute count because I flatlined. There was nothing was going off. Everything was done. They did a C-section in the room to get my daughter out of me and then rushed me to the ICU. I went into a coma, which actually was an induced coma. I was in an induced coma for 24 hours. And after that, I woke up with no memory. I didn't know why I was in the hospital. I didn't even know that I had my daughter. People would ask me like, do you know why you're here? And I'd be like, yes, I had COVID. I thought I had COVID.
Wow.
That's how, and that lasted for a good 4 or 5 days. And during this time, my daughter was not in the same hospital as me because she had to go through what was called a cooling. So they had to put her in this incubator, and because they feared she lost oxygen because the only thing keeping her alive was them resuscitating me while she was still inside me because they couldn't transfer me. They had to get her out as fast as possible. So the doctors decided to treat us in 2 different hospitals. So I didn't see my daughter for, I think, 9 days. 9 days we were separated. So seeing her for the first time, and I'm struggling and I'm fighting to go and see her. And, you know, I want to go see her. I want to go see her. And then my husband was going from one hospital to the next and constantly like, you have to pump, you have to pump. Like they had to take my phone away from me, my
Why?
wallet, because a mother goes into bear mode. So once I started realizing that, okay, I had my child, I was pregnant, I was all there, I wasn't repeating, they still kept me under observation. I wasn't allowed to go and see her. Because when you're incubated, the rule is, I think it's like 5 days you have to stay in the hospital and you can't leave. Because I was hooked up to all kinds of machines. And every day I would lie. I would say like, I feel good. Like I'm fine. I want to go and see my daughter. And every day, well, no, Julia, you can't go. To this day, out of everything that I went through, that part for me was the hardest because she's over there fighting for her life. And as a mother, I'm here helpless, even though yes, I needed to be taken care of, and I understand that now. But at that moment, it's like you couldn't have just put me in like a wheelchair and brought me to see her. Yeah. So
Odd. Like I know there's protocol, but
that's what,
exceptions, right? Like
I wrote a letter to the Jewish. I explained to them that, you know, you shouldn't separate a mother. Like after I got out of the ICU, they could have transferred me to the Glen.
Why didn't they?
They don't know. They just felt it was better. They just felt it was better for us to be separated.
I also gave birth as a Jewish. That's
Yeah?
really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was happening with your daughter at the same time what was happening with you? What was her struggle as to stay alive?
Because they were afraid that she lacked oxygen. They had to put her what was called the cooling, because if your brain was also with the cooling, it would shrink her brain because it swells when you lose it. They felt like for her to be able to live a normal life, they didn't know because she was still young, all the testing. Once they did the cooling, they did a scan and she seemed like she was okay, but this would only be things that after a year of her life, if she developed properly, would I be able to know like if she's gonna live a normal life? It was still very like uncertain for the first year of her life.
That sounds really, really rough.
It was. And I think another part that was really hard for me, so we'll go back to what I said before. For me, the most magical thing was holding my son for the first time that I couldn't wait, because my daughter too, a horrible pregnancy. I did not enjoy it, and I was so excited for that moment because I was like, okay, it's all gonna be worth it when I'm gonna hold her in my arms, And then when I saw her the first time, it was literally an outer body experience. Like I walked into, like you're walking into the NICU and you're seeing all these kids' names, and I'm walking, and then that patio door opens and I walk in and I just see this little girl hooked up to everything. It's like the first time that you see them like that. It was really hard for me that I literally felt my spirit leave my body because it was so hard for me to witness something like that. And I remember, like, I even think the doctor noticed, because the doctor was like explaining, like, do you understand what happened to your daughter? Because I wasn't there. It was my husband taking care of everything. Do you understand what's happening with your daughter? And then she did this, and we had to do this to her, and we had to that. And she's just talking to me, and I felt like, the cartoon. And I'm just looking at her. Yeah, I understand. My body started becoming a robot. I was doing things just because I knew I was supposed to do it like that, but not really, because I went completely numb.
Too much to process.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
Oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah.
your body does protect yourself that
Oh,
way.
100%.
Totally. It's like, it's amazing what the body does under stress.
And did you remember like that you were pregnant and that you did give birth eventually?
I had to do a special type of therapy because I had PTSD.
Of course.
Okay. So the PTSD, like for a year, I didn't really understand what was going on with me until I one day went to the doctors with my daughter because she was followed by, the children's hospital for a long while. And I walked in and they did all the tests and you're like, Julia, whatever you're doing a fantastic job. Keep doing what you're doing. She's going to live a normal life. And I remember walking out of there because I was going through the PTSD. PTSD plus postpartum, like everything was, I walked out of there. I was like, but I didn't do anything. I was fighting. Like in my head, I'm like, I was just fighting to survive. I was a robot. I was just feeding her and doing everything that I was supposed to. And then it just hit. And after that, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't move. I was crying and crying because before that, people were talking like, oh my God, you survived such so where I would laugh about it. How much I was so in a protection mode of not feeling something so traumatic that happened to me.
Do you feel like you had or you were given resources to deal or to cope with what you went through?
Not in the first year, only when I started reaching out.
So you had to undertake.
I had to do, I was really blessed because when I couldn't get out of bed, I was like, there's something wrong with me. I've been feeling too long like this and now it's just getting worse. I went to go see a therapist and then the therapist had told me that there's a special program at the Jewish for women that went through a traumatic birth.
Yeah.
I called my gynecologist. She actually knew the woman that was responsible for this program and got me an interview and she goes, no, you're a perfect candidate. Come on in.
Yeah.
So sad that they didn't offer it to you from the get-go.
Right?
That's just
I
like,
didn't
it
even
speaks
think
volumes.
about that.
Yeah.
No, because they were like, oh no, there's
Of course
fine.
you don't.
Yeah.
You're just struggling, right?
Yeah,
I had
you're-
the same experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a bit about your experience?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, I have 2 daughters, and my youngest one, Rosalie, passed away suddenly at the age of 13 and a half months. She had started daycare, went back to work, the regular, what's supposed to happen, and she got her first big cold. She saw her doctor the day before she passed because I was just checking to see what was going on. And her doctor had said, you can she had prescribed amoxicillin, antibiotics. And she goes, wait and see if she has fever again because she didn't have fever then. And if she has fever, then give it to her. So the next day she gets fever. I give it to her. It's the end of the day routine. It's a Friday. I'm alone with the 2 girls at home. So my eldest is 2.5 and home with me. And so I put Rosalie to bed at 7 and go in 10 minutes later just to check on her because she wasn't feeling well. I wanted to make sure her temperature. I'd given her, Advil to see if it went down. And she wasn't moving. She was, I just went to go check in her ear because we had the ear one and I just went like this to move her head. And then I realized that she just was like a rag doll. And then I freaked out. I grabbed her right away out of bed. And I'll always remember running because it was dark in the room just to the kitchen. And the way their arms just swung like a rag doll. Like it's not the way the babies are, And I started doing, thank God I had taken CPR classes. And so I started CPR right away. I knew that would save time, right? That would save, you're supposed to do that, then call 911. So then I couldn't find my phone. I was like, where's my phone? And I'm just screaming out, where's my phone? And my daughter, Melis, she was there. She was still up, 2.5. She goes, say, mommy. She went on the coffee table and brought it over to me. And she was just sitting at her, right near her daughter, her sister's head as I'm pumping and screaming and talking 911. So I can relate to PTSD. I can relate to a lot of different therapies that, I had tried, thank you, over the years. It's 9 years now and it's still obviously look very emotional. Like so she passed away. Her heart had stopped. Obviously, they managed to restart it at the hospital, but it was all through medication and mechanical, and there had been there would be definite brain damage, etc. And then all of her organs started to swell because of the lack of oxygen. It was so long. So unfortunately, she passed away at like 5 on the Saturday morning, but they kept her alive just long enough so that all my family could come to the hospital.
I'm so sorry you went through that.
Thank
I
you.
think we're all very sorry that you went through that.
So fast forward. Well, I don't know what different steps you can find, but we didn't know why she had passed. So with a sudden death, basically, they investigate the parents' genetics sometimes with the heart. So I had to pass some tests, and so did my partner, and I was okay, and he had a red flag right away. So they sent him to l'Institut de Cardiologie, and they had to, basically, he tested positive when they injected him with adrenaline. So it's basically the long QT. So it's a form of arrhythmia with the heart that's genetic. And so they figured, okay, well, we're going to now see if your daughter that's still alive might have it too, right? So then they actually went backwards. They went all on his side of the family, tested his parents and his sister and the nephews, and it went all the way up to his grandma, I think. I can't remember now. It was so much was going on at the same time. I just lost her, and then we were dealing with this, So, and then I was just constantly afraid of losing him, because the way that it manifests is if you over-exercise. So the typical thing is, when you see triathlon or marathoners just dropping dead, basically it's a form of long QT that wasn't diagnosed. A lot of people don't know they have it because it's a genetic mutation that can be passed on. It's very, very rare. It's extremely rare. But so all that to say that on his side of the family, they don't have. No one has. So the genetic mutation basically would have started from him, and he could have passed it on to both of our daughters. So we decided to do an autopsy for Rosalie to get answers, and it wasn't clear. They suspected SIDS, sudden infant death. They didn't know if it was that. There was vomit also, in her passageways. But when I had done the mouth to mouth, there was some that came into my mouth. So did it happen before in bed? Did she vomit and choke, or was it after the reminiscence of me trying to bring her back to life? So there's a lot of unanswered questions, and they can't, because the genes in 2016 had mutated, that they had, I guess, kind of scientifically where they were at. They knew which genes. My spouse, he didn't fall within those genes, but he tested positive for the injection of the epinephrine. Anyway, so long story short, it's a long story. There's different facets to it. So I was basically mourning, but also PTSD, and also worried of losing, like I said, my spouse beside me sleeping, and then my daughter. So I didn't sleep for a good 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my story.
Despite what you went through, I know that you eventually you got better.
Yes.
And you processed the event.
Yes.
Can you speak a bit about the tool that you found that helped you?
Definitely. Yeah. So I had done like we had said before, you leave the hospital and you think you're going to be offered all these resources, and unfortunately it's not always the case. So I went out and sought a psychologist for myself just to guide me through it. And like I said, I had the PTSD element and also the mourning element, but, and I finally, after 2-3 years of doing whatever I thought was good, grief groups, there was one that was great. It was called Des Parents Orphelins, because there's no name for a parent, like in any language. It's really interesting. I didn't think of this before. When you lose a husband, it's a
widow. Yeah,
if you
you're
lose
right.
a wife, or if you lose, in all senses,
Yes.
but when you lose a child, there's no word for it. So that's why they call it Les Parents Orphelins.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we met there, and then the sign, there's also signs that that's another facet of that. We show up there, and it happens to be the girl that's running it. It's a cafe format. You show up, and she was there, and she lost a child, but it was, she lost a child, and it was right straight after birth. So stillbirth. And she happened to be someone that my spouse went to CEGEP with, and he used to actually drive her to CEGEP.
Wow.
So and that's it. The connections just keep going as our journey continued, and it's so beautiful because you're in such pain and you're trying to just heal, and then life is just kind of hinting it and guiding you in the right direction,
Yeah.
But then I finally found through word of mouth of someone, I don't even remember how, something called EMDR. So it's it's sort of a form of hypnosis, but with your eyes. And the way that they explained it to me was your brain is kind of like a computer, and when you go through a traumatic event, you secrete a lot of hormones, and your brain is not able to kind of categorize that memory in a specific place. So this helps you kind of go through the event, go through the trauma, and then be able to categorize it in your brain so it doesn't. Because I had a lot of triggers. And when you mentioned the choking, that was one of them too, because of the vomit and because of also she was coughing a lot before she was sick. So as soon as I'd hear my daughter, Melody, when she would cough, and she was in it, 2.5 years old, till how long? They're always sick, right? Mm-hmm. Like I would literally twitch. I would like I was there. I would go to her right away, So yeah. but I finally got out of it. That snapped me out of it. And I was pleasantly surprised because it was only I did 3 sessions. It's expensive, but it was worth it. And when I did it, I'm just happy I did it. And the thing that came out of it after that was my sister was my rock, because she was pregnant when Rosalie passed. She was pregnant with her twins. So she went off onto mat leave, and then I was on sick leave. And it was so therapeutic for both of us, because I was able to help her with her twins. And I wanted to also, it was like nurturing. It helped me fill that void.
Beautiful.
For sure.
Yeah. And also for Melody, because it was like her siblings, right? So even till this day, it's like her brother and sister. So and my sister, all that to finish on the EMDR. After I did that, she was telling me openly, and even everyone around, she's like, I finally got my sister back.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Jessie, who actually put us in touch with one another.
Yeah, exactly. With Jessie, and we're talking tonight. Yeah.
I see the importance of having a support system as you transition into motherhood. Whether you go through a traumatic experience or not, it is a new experience. It's a new chapter that you enter, and that you might not always feel equipped to deal with. Nancy, I know that you're very passionate about that transition, and that one of your big passions in life is to help new mothers cope and get comfortable in their new role. Can you speak a bit about that?
Yes, so I've had 3 natural births with midwives, though they were still not smooth, okay? I don't want you to think that I just took a breath and the baby was born. It didn't go like that. My first took 2 days to be born. My water broke on a Wednesday, he was born on a Friday, so, it was a process. But I love all things pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. I'm really passionate about the subject, and I think motherhood kind of like surprised me. I had this little beautiful image of like the mom nurturing her child, and I had all of these ideas of what being a mom would be like. And I was surprised to see how much motherhood could be isolating, and how much we need that support, not only during pregnancy. Pregnancy could be one of the darkest seasons for some, where you just feel completely misunderstood, isolated, and alone. Birth can be that as well, if you don't have a partner that's supportive, if you're not equipped, if you don't have a good support system that can guide you through the process of birthing. And postpartum, I mean, we know with like PTSD and postpartum depression, and just the fact that you're going from being a woman to a mother, yet you're still a woman, but you're transforming into a mother, and they have to coexist now, because you're not just a mom, but you're also still a woman, and perhaps a wife, and perhaps a sister, and perhaps a friend. And it's a lot of hats to wear. And I think that it really hit me hard when I became a mom and realized that I was not in control, and things were completely different than I would have imagined. I think I needed a lot of support with my first, because I got like thrown off of my horse. We went a whole year not sleeping more than 2 hours. He was a fussy baby, not to put him down, but it was just a fussy baby. And we were not really prepared for the arrival of a child into our lives. I think we thought we were, but life has its ways of surprising you.
Always.
And so, it shook up our marriage. It shook up our lives. It shook up a lot of things. And I think I learned a lot of key lessons during that season. I became super passionate about the whole idea of maternity, postpartum, pregnancy. And the mental load, I think, is what really sticked with me the most, realizing to what extent you get prepared physically for labor, you get prepared financially, you set up a nursery. There's all these steps that people tell you to take, but nobody really talks about how much it's going to occupy in your mind.
Yeah.
And to what extent you're going to lose sleep over it. And you're going to be at work thinking, did I pack the lunch? But today was the day we have to bring empty milk cartons. And it was wear a different pair of sock day, and I forgot. And the appointment. And then you're handling all of that mental load for your child.
And in your case, you have to do that for three
times.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize that you lose yourself in that sometimes, and you forget your own pair of socks. And you get to work and everybody has a lunch and you're like, what am I eating? Let me order something. And so, I think just the beautiful chaos of motherhood, and just how the past 8 years have been out of my control. Nothing like I would have expected. More failures than success. But it's beautiful, and it's created in me a passion to just want to be there for other moms. So with that, I have a very humble, tiny Instagram page that is not popular called Congratulations, It's a Mom. And on that platform, I've been able to have a lot of conversations in my DMs with moms that are either pregnant or postpartum, and just like navigate through the chaos.
That's amazing.
Like, you know,
I wish I would have had
I
something
agree.
like that.
Yeah.
it's just like we need to have real talks.
For sure.
And
Yes.
We don't.
we don't.
We don't. I remember entering into motherhood and thinking like, okay, this is the standard. I really need to be like on top of my game. I was like, we're doing baby-led weaning. I'm breastfeeding. It's organic. We're making our own purees. You know, like, do you all?
We all go through this.
Oh my God, for sure.
And then like, you get thrown off of your horse. You have a second, then you have a third. You can imagine our third one. And things are very fluid.
Oh, yes.
And it was sad because for the longest time I thought I'm not doing a good job. I'm not a good mom. But actually, no, I am doing a good job. It's just this is not what society is depicting. It's not a true image of what motherhood is. And at the end of the day, like what our child needs is us.
Yep.
And it's not about if they ate baby-led weaning or purees or if it was organic or chemical. I think at the end of the day is just to have a mom that's there, and shout out to the dads that are there too, because that's a big load too. So yeah, definitely passionate on the topic. Could talk for hours. Holding myself.
Melis, do you feel also that society tends to romanticize motherhood?
For sure. Especially like, so it for sure romanticizes, like, I feel like the roles of the mom and the child, but it also romanticizes a very neurotypical form of motherhood, right? Like everyone, it's great to be around you ladies, honestly. Like it feels like a breath of fresh air, and it's more conversations like this that's important because everyone gets pregnant thinking that they're going to have this baby and they're going to have challenges, they're going to have sleepless nights, and and then there's the future of that. There is your kid's going to go to elementary school, kindergarten, daycare, and then college and graduate. So for me, like as much as we are kind of all millennials. So as much as we don't want to think like that and have a perception of what we want our kids to be in their future to be, you do. Like you unconsciously are like, okay, he's going to go to school and the next step is going to be this, and the next step is going to be this. Whether you think of it or don't, that's what you think.
Yeah.
Because that's what society presents you.
Right.
And then for us, when Theo started to lose his skills, like he was making eye contact, he was talking, he was bubbling, he was doing all the, first time mom, like, did he hit that check mark? Did he hit that milestone? He was doing all of that. And all of a sudden he stopped and he started to lose skills. He was going to say mama, and then it didn't come. So I never got to hear him say mama. He said mama first time at 4. So I didn't get to hear that. And I'm lucky that he said it at 4. I could have not had that experience. So that's I've come around to it. But then at 2, so we knew something was up. We knew that he wasn't hitting the milestones, even though we were first-time parents. And the thing is with our culture, so I'm Turkish, my husband is Egyptian. And, our families were like, oh, it's a boy. Boys are lazy, boys are behind. But thank God we had other people around us. We were very lucky that we're like, no, like you need to see and kind of take some. So I even took him to a pediatrician. The pediatrician's like, no, it's fine. He's making eye contact.
But as a mother, did you know? Yeah, you knew, right?
We
always know.
knew. And it was my first time, and I wasn't and I was one of the first people to have a kid in my group. So that was also hard too, because I didn't have anyone to compare or anything to compare to. But you do know, like you said. And then we found, we were very lucky because he was 1.5, and I pushed to find a pediatrician that was more developmental, a bit more dealing with those kinds of things. And then he had some issues. He had to get surgery. He had some adenoids, some breathing problems. But after that all cleared up, we noticed nothing was changing at 1.5. So we got him diagnosed. We found someone. There's very few people that do early diagnosis. Sadly, most diagnoses for autism don't happen until 5, typically 3 if you're lucky. So we were very lucky, but it was just because of my pushy mama bear news that happened. I was and my husband too, I have to give him credit. He's also a very paranoid human being. And he was like, no. He's like, we're not having the right thing going on here. So, and then that's it. And then, so then it's like on top of everything, like first time motherhood, first time experience. So that was the big crashing wave for us, like to get the diagnosis, like, yeah, your son has ASD, your son is on the spectrum. And then to know, like, what is the future going to hold? What's going to happen? And no one has an answer. Why did this happen? No one has an answer. We don't know. We'll have to see. Early intervention's important. But, and then there was like really inappropriate things that came up from people close and not close. It's really surprising. Like, is he high functioning? Is he low functioning? I was like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea. Like, so then like, then you start, so you're just in shock, but then you start to wonder, like, can he go to school? Like, is he going to talk? He might never talk. And then you like look up, you go into Google, which is your worst nightmare.
Yes.
And Google's like average age expectancy for kids on the spectrum, depending on kind of where they are, is 35. Why 35? Like, they have genetic things, they have other things. Mainly drowning is the main concern. Like most kids die that are on the spectrum because of drowning.
Wow.
They have
did not know that.
Me
they
neither.
have less of some kids on the spectrum, depending. But it's very common. They have no sense of fear, which is a very thing that we are born with. It's a very genetic thing. It's like what humans in the olden times in the caves and things like that would make us go after danger or not go after danger, right? So the way kids on the spectrum, just the way they're wired and neurotypically, this part of the brain, like the fear part of your brain, which is the center, is less active.
Okay.
So they can be like runners into traffic or like, again, swimming, water falling. It's very common that those stuff can happen. So yeah, like I don't know how deep I should get into it, but it is very interesting when you have a kid like that because like, first of all, like people are having birth, people are having kids around you, and everyone is having this experience. Yes, for sure that everyone is having challenges. It's not true that everyone's having this glamorized experience, but you're then on the fringes. You're on the outside where you're not able to have this experience. You're always having an alternative experience and you're not sure. Like, so we don't talk about the future anymore. Like, like most people will say like, oh, he's going to go to this school and my kid's going to go to private school. We're like, we hope he goes to school. Like, I mean, but that's been our reality. Like we really weren't sure if he was going to talk. He didn't become verbal until 3.5, 4. Like honestly, 4, 3.5, he started words. And then like, we weren't sure, like, because it's a spectrum. So we don't know the capacity of, can he learn? Is his IQ working in the sense that he can learn, he can understand? Early intervention is key for any kid that is diagnosed. We were lucky, we did all of that. The first thing, when the day he was diagnosed, I will never forget, we're having the meeting and it's during COVID times. So it was a Zoom meeting. And she said to us, the psychologist who diagnosed him, she said, most families have to remortgage their houses.
Why?
Because of the therapy. She said, if you send him to therapy, which she said, I recommend 30 hours of therapy starting off he's not even 2 yet.
30 hours spread over
A week. 30
it's a
hours a
full-time
week.
job.
The ABA therapy?
ABA therapy, 30 hours a week. And she said that if you can go to government, but government, you're going to wait 5 years and they're only going to give you 5 hours of therapy. The government doesn't have a resource for this really. And there's a waiting list, or you start straight away in private. She said, most of my clients remortgage their houses because it is going to be the price of another mortgage. And she was, that kind of like hit me and went over my head. I think I was too much concerned with the fact that my kid now has autism and I don't know anything about autism to even comprehend that. And now we really do live in a lifestyle where my husband and I, we pay 2 mortgages. We pay our house and we pay therapy mortgages. It's a really real thing because we've gone that route. We've gone private since he was little. We've seen the benefits of it, but we don't know how long we're going to have to pay for that. We're very lucky. Like he hit the biggest milestone for us in the sense that he just was able to start in a public school system this year.
That's great.
I put him in, I had him for a specialized school. I thought he was going to go to a specialized school, but then they said, no, like he should try public.
Wow.
So we tried that. But like, that's my kind of reality is like, I'm only going to think this far, which is like a couple months into the future. I can't think
It's
more
crazy
than
though, because don't you feel because you didn't have expectations
Yeah.
when it happened, it was like such just a beautiful surprise?
100%. And, but if I'm being very honest with you, and I think this is important to say, I did have expectations. I think everyone has expectations, whether they want to or not. And then like a lot of you ladies are talking about like something comes and blows up your expectations, like full in your face. I think the best thing though that has ever happened is like you said, you learn to let go. Like you have to let go. Like it's happened. Like I've had to live with what's happened and I have to be the best mom I possibly can be in this situation. I have to educate myself and to be an alternative mom in a society that does not support. Society supports extreme cases of disability. They have a society like Canada has a solution for that. There are specialized schools. Society supports normative, kind of education. When you have a kid like Theo, he's in between. He needs a lot of support, but he also needs to be around neurotypical kids. He needs to be in that environment. There is no support. I have to fight for all the support for that. So that's why, like what you're saying, like my expectations are very much like you said, I've had to let them go, even though I have them over and over again. The disappointment. He got kicked out of daycare when they found out he had autism. They
What?
pushed him out. Yeah, I went on CTV actually.
Is that even legal?
So they're a private daycare. Technically, like she just made it so inconvenient for us. Like she said that we would have to pay like $3,000 a month to keep him there with like a special educator always on him and things like that. They pushed him out. Like that was my first experience. I had a 2-year-old that just got diagnosed. Within, I think 2 or 3 months, he was like pushed out. So I had to find another solution basically. So that's kind of been, and when you speak of PTSD, I think about that a lot. Like my husband and I 100% have PTSD because we're constantly fighting for everything.
Yeah, you're in fight mode.
And when you're
all the
constantly
time.
in fight mode all the time, like you're just like, so it's exactly like that. Whenever like I have triggers too, like wherever like I get a phone call from the school, I just seeing their name, I'm triggered. I'm just like super triggered. I'm like, what happened? Da, da, da.
We had a season where we flipped out with school too because my oldest has ADHD and ODD. And in first grade, we would get called every day by the school, like every day. And I remember my husband and I used to get anxious. We're like, if we work 15 minutes extra on our shift, that might be the 15 minutes that he lashes out and the school calls us. So we would like rush to leave work to pick him up in hopes that we would like save the day. But I remember every time we'd see either an email or a phone call from the school, we're like, okay, we're back. Okay. I remember once going to pick up my son from after school, like service de garde. And unfortunately, a clumsy person said, "Oh boy, you're his mom? Whoo, he had a really bad day today." I go, "So you're his," kind of like, yeah. I mean, okay, clumsy mistake, but in that moment, you just
100%.
want to hide under a rock, and you're not ashamed. I mean, it's your son, you love him, but it's just sad how it's not always equipped to embrace the child's difficulties and challenges. They also were going to send him in a specialized school, but he ended up having a nice turnaround, and now he's still in regular and he's doing great in third grade.
I'm pretty sure his turnaround is though because of his parents. Like that's my biggest thing.
So nice. But we got lucky with his teacher in third grade.
Yeah.
She's like an angel. She had ADHD herself.
Amazing.
She really knew how to handle him, and we had good support from the direction. So we were just very lucky, the principal. And for sure, we had to also adapt our parenting and change some things at home. But yeah, definitely, we play a key role in their life every day. Huh? You know it for your son, I'm sure.
Definitely.
I think this is a good segue into my next question. How do you feel about advice? Advice from well-meaning people, who want to help you through whatever it is that you're experiencing. Is it helpful or is it annoying? Or both?
That's a really good question. For me, I always appreciate the advice.
Okay.
Because I do believe that it does take a village to raise a child. So I'm always open for advice.
Okay.
So for me, I'm pro.
I think I'm open to guidance, but I think
Yeah.
for advice, if I don't ask, perhaps
Don't tell.
think a little before you speak. Not you yourself, I mean in general. I think because it's confusing for a mom when you get mixed advice. And both parents or both friends are super convinced about the advice they're giving you and that it's the way, the truth, and the life. And I think it could be overwhelming. I think sometimes you have to like calculate, be sure that the person is receptive and are they even interested? Did they even ask for advice? But you bring a good point
Yeah,
too.
I find anecdotal advice is the best. Like when they can share their stories like we're doing, you'll naturally draw and pick what you need from it or what you think could work in your life or your situation, as opposed to someone say, try this, do this, prescribing something. Advice could kind of, that's it. So I personally, I love it when people tell me their stories because then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I'll try that or I'll try that.
Exactly.
It's a
So you
lighter
have to
version
pick.
of advice. Yeah.
I think maybe exactly because I would pick
Yeah, of course.
on, okay, you know what, that resonates with me. I'm definitely going to use that. And then there would be advice that I would get, but like, okay, I'm definitely. But I always appreciate it because everybody has their story
But it also
and
offers
everybody,
perspective. So when someone says something, you're like,
Perspective.
okay, I'm not going to take that, but
Very
like, oh,
true.
they're going through that. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then you feel grateful or you feel okay, that's it.
Yeah,
It's just
perspective.
anecdotal advice is I find is the best.
We had like a situation. So like when Theo was diagnosed, like people didn't know what to do, the grandparents and everyone. And all of a sudden it was just like everyone was like offering everything it was a panic mode, right? So, and I remember saying very clearly, and I still to this day, I was like, look, Theo has his therapist, he has his parents. We are in charge of our son. We are in charge of deciding if we want to do ABA, if we don't want to do ABA, if we want to homeschool him, not homeschool him. It's our choice. It's our son, our choice, But what I told to the grandparents, my parents and my husband's parents, is that, because they kept saying like there was this, they wanted to offer advice in a lot of things because there was this helplessness, they didn't know how to help us. And I told them, it's not your responsibility. I was like, Theo is my responsibility. You guys are our parents. We are the ones you should support. And maybe supporting means keeping your mouth shut sometimes. Maybe supporting, just means like giving me coffee, doing my laundry, something like that. Maybe supporting means just listening to me and just being like, man, that's a really crap day you've had. That's it. That's all I want to hear from you. But it's me that you should focus on. Let me focus on my son because like you said, it really does take a village. 100% agree with that. And especially when you have a kid like that has a lot of extra needs. As a parent, you're very close to being burnt out all the time.
For sure.
So it's like what you guys ladies were saying, like, it's like you need you to be supported somehow so you can give your all to your kid. It was the same. I wonder if you guys went through this, but when we had our son, like in the beginning, Theo was just mommy obsessed, right? My husband did not exist until like 2.5, 3. It took 3 years for my husband to really exist in Theo's eyes. And my husband, he was having that frustration and he was like, what can I do? I can't help you with this. He doesn't let me do this. He doesn't let me feed him. I was like, you can help me. Because I'm the one doing everything right now, so you can help me, And I think that's it with advice and help. It's like there's different ways. You don't have to go straight to the child and the parenting, You're going to be a pillar of support or that village that you're talking about.
Well, when you give birth, when you're pregnant, everybody is there to support you, technically. When you give birth a little, the second you get home with the baby, it's all about the baby. Everybody comes with a gift for the baby. Everybody wants to hold the baby. Nobody wants your dishes. Nobody wants you to shower or not. Everybody is about the baby. And the mom is there like, I just gave birth. Like, hello. I wish there was a better culture around postpartum where we would have this mindset of I'm going there to meet the mother and then the child. And I think that's what women would benefit from their partner, from their friends, from the in-laws, from their parents, just to have this culture of like having a village that comes with a meal. I think one thing that really touched me after I had my first is when a couple came over and they actually brought a gift for me. Yeah, I mean, sorry for the kid, but and it was like I think a spa gift card, and like it's not even the value, just the fact that I was seen in that moment,
course.
and I think it like something switched in my mind where like I changed my method, and now when I visit somebody, like you just have to think either like a cookie or a coffee or a dish you washed. Could be anything, but I think moms need that. Like you,
100%.
motherhood is like giving of yourself fully. So it is kind of nice when you get a little bit of love. A little bit of love for the mamas.
Sure.
Yeah.
What have been some of your most joyful moments as mothers?
For myself, I'd have to say is my daughter's still young, but it's for both of them, is when you see how hard they worked for something and then they accomplish it, that is everything for me as a mom.
Something like at school or in their
School,
in their hobbies,
learning, sports, or like when they're, a puzzle and they've been trying to
yes.
figure it out and then they finally get it. For me, that's, I don't know, for myself, that's what it is. It's like seeing them when they're working so hard on something and they finally do it.
Yeah, you burst with pride.
Yep.
For me, go ahead.
Go for it.
Yeah, for me, I think it's to see the humanness in others, like when she's able to be very empathetic, the empathy that just comes out of her, and you're just like, wow. Like, and then you think, you ask yourself, okay, is it the nature versus nurture? What is it? And then I'm like, I don't care. She's empathetic.
Yeah.
Like
She's a good
she
human.
thinks she's a good human, and that's all I want. That's all I want. Yeah.
I think, we often look at like all the bad things they inherit from us and like, oh, that's your bad habit but I think what's cute too is when you see them inherit good habits.
Yes.
And so like, I like to scratch their back. And at one point, my 8-year-old was like, Mommy, are you having a rough day? And he was like scratching my back. I think that was like a really happy moment for me to just see that like, hey, like we're shaping people.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal.
Like us, yeah.
And then seeing like my 6-year-old get this little jujube, this little candy, and decides to like split it in 3 to share it with his siblings. And I'm like, this just soothes my heart for all the times you guys kill each other, Like, it's just those sweet little moments that make it worth it and that make you go like, okay, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
I think those are the happy moments for me.
Recently, I got from my daughter who's 11. We were just walking the dog and outside, and she's chit-chatting away. I'm like, wow, I got to do this more often. This is like her moment after school. She came home, and then I'm like, let's go walk the dog. She just usually I ask her, how's your day? She goes, okay, Mommy. I was like, okay. I have to like push and prompt and like try to scratch it out, And here, she just told me everything from A to Z, and it was like not necessarily negative stuff only or just positive. It was just her day, and I was like, wow. And at the end, we're almost home. She's like, oh, I've been talking the whole time. She's like, how was your day? I was like, oh my God, nobody else. You are so nice. Like, I was like, okay, it's happening.
Yeah, it's really
So it was
sweet.
nice. Yeah,
That's amazing.
those little things.
I think for me, it's just, for me and my husband, like, really just, our son is just so funny, and he is who he is. Like, he's just, but he makes us laugh so much, and we've really grown. Like, we would never have it another way, we love the autism part, just his personality part. He makes us really focus and live in the moment, And I think most kids do, actually. They don't have to have autism. Like, kids, like, their world is so awesome and focused, and they bring you into that world, and it's like therapy in some ways. Nothing that they do is really therapy, but like you can have those moments of therapy with a kid, where you're like, just, like the other day, like my son has a behavioral report that the school writes, like how his days went, because they're trying to, figure out his difficulties. And the teacher hands it to me, and my son takes it out of her hand before it comes to mine, and he opens, and he's like, today I did not yell at Miss Lucy. He's reading me the behavioral report, and I'm like, that's hilarious. But like, he knows, like he's getting a different report, like something's up. He's like, let me just take care of this for you, It's just, it's things like that with kids that I think really, you just focus in this moment and you just you just want it to never end, actually. Like, as much as I do want to have sleep again, like, I also like don't want him to grow up, you know? I want him to stay a kid almost like forever.
I'm right there with you on that. And it's one of my biggest struggles of motherhood, is just that feeling that it's like we're holding sand. And the tighter you hold on and you're like, I don't want time to pass, it passes through the crevices and all the little cracks of your hands. And you open your hand and you're like, oh, there's little left, but you can't stop it. It's just a process of life. But it's just
so
like,
true.
Embrace those seasons, you know, like.
And if you ask all of the parents, like your parents and other people that used to be parents of the kids grow up, the happiest time, I think, in people's lives is when their kids are young, when they have their kids and their kids are young. I think it's like you're reliving your childhood through their eyes another time. I think everyone goes back to that time period in their lives really being one of the, you know, like once you've had kids, you don't go back and being like, oh, my 20s were amazing. Yeah. They were great, but like really the time period with your kids, I think, is the most amazing time of your life.
For me, also the most trying, though.
Yeah, for sure.
The best, yes, but the hardest.
For sure.
I don't even know how they could coexist, but they do.
Is there something that you've felt or thought as a mom that you were scared to say out loud or to share with other people for fear of being seen as not a good mom?
I'm going to say that it was, it's happened a couple of times with the PTSD and the high stress situations where I'll be driving, and it's probably the first time I'll say it like out loud, really. I recently said it to someone. I'll be driving and I would hope that something hit me and it would end, basically. Like, I just kind of, at that moment, with all the pressure and the pain and have to deal with school or have to deal with something that came up and work, and it happened in different various stages of my son, that I just kind of wanted to be hit by something and it to be over, which is obviously a super dark and bad thought to have. And I would feel super shamed into even expressing that thought, because how dare I want to leave my kid? How dare do I want to leave my son? How dare do I want to just peace out? But it's like, that's the only way in my head I'm thinking that I can get peace or relief, is if I just want everything to end, because it's so overwhelming to deal with.
I can relate to that totally. Like I was in that mindset too for a few years, and the only thing that was saving me was the fact that I still had my other daughter. You know, we even say it. My partner and I say, "Thank God she's here, because she's the one that's keeping us going."
Mm-hmm. The same for me. When I was going through it, I wanted to die, and I would even rehearse. And for myself, I felt like it was even more taboo to talk about because my life was saved. You're so lucky.
Like, you're not allowed to.
You're so lucky. You got a second chance at life. You're so lucky. You're so lucky. And I remember I would be rocking my daughter and I'd be thinking like, I'm so lucky, but then why do I feel this way? Why do I feel this way? Like, I even had, like, I went as far as like how I would do it, because the pain is so heavy and so overwhelming, and it just floods you that I just didn't want to feel anymore.
It's that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do you guys overcome these moments?
For myself, is because I had another child. Like, that's, I would pick up and I would go and I would be like, no, okay, like, you have another kid. You have another kid. Like, you know, you have a child, you know?
That sense of responsibility towards your children.
For me, the pain of knowing that the extra pain that my daughter would have of losing a sister and a mother. I was I'm like, why am I even thinking this? Like,
Motherhood it can be heavy and very difficult. I think for me, it's been also like feeling more gratification and excitement about being elsewhere. Like, there were times in my motherhood journey where I just was like, I'm not enjoying it. And then I'd be at work, or I'd be with friends, or I'd be with my husband, and I'm like, this is instant gratification. It's great, but you don't get glory from changing a diaper, wiping a runny nose, dealing with a tantrum, and like a child that's like hitting you, or like, just like managing people's feelings all the time. You're like a therapist.
Yeah,
right?
Completely.
So maybe in 10 years, maybe in 12, when they grow up and you're like, wow. Like,
that's what I was telling you. The word I opened up to say now, my motherhood, where I'm at now, it's like, wow, it's finally. You know,
see the fruit.
I said it, finally.
What you sow, you were saying what you sow, you reap. That's it. But and when you're working the ground, and you're like getting all the weeds out, and it's not pretty.
No.
It's not pretty.
Did you feel like, because you were going through the PTSD and all that, did you have guilt as a mom that were you able to be present for your daughter?
Oh, I was physically there and mentally not there most of the time.
So do you have guilt about that?
I do. It's a good question. Wow, it's a really good question. I do, but I think I'm making up for it now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have an amazing partner that was so there in that key time when I was not. I was just surviving. I was like a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very robotic. And now that I'm actually okay and better, and yeah, it's. I feel like I'm getting that time back right now, in a good way. And I have a job now where I work from home, and she can walk home, and like I see her. She's not at daycare after school, and we're bonding so much. Like that walk I was saying earlier. Like it's like wow, yeah, it just feels light. It feels good.
It's such a key point of her life. She gets to have you fully.
Yes. Yes. So I'm honoring it, and I'm really trying my best. Not trying my best, actually. It's funny. I'm not trying. I'm just feeling like I probably would have naturally done if Rosie had probably not passed.
That's a really profound statement. Like you're just feeling. You're not trying to do anything.
Yeah.
You're just there.
I'm in my body.
Yeah, you're in your body. Exactly. I'd like to hear you speak about how becoming a mother has changed you. Physically, emotionally, spiritually. We alluded to like the spiritual facet when we were having coffee earlier. So anything you feel comfortable sharing.
Well, I had asked basically, I don't know if you want to answer, but when you mentioned that you had, flatlined, if you had a near-death experience of anything on the other side that you could recollect or...
I did. You guys want me to share it?
Yes,
definitely.
if you're comfortable.
If you're comfortable.
No
If
pressure.
you're comfortable, yeah.
It was funny because I didn't share it. I don't share the story to many people because one, I didn't know how people would react. But you know what the truth is, like when you turn 40, you stop.
It's true. The 40s is,
The best thing about the 40s.
It's a good thing.
So I floated out of my body and I saw everything. Like I saw them take my daughter out of me. I saw them put her aside, and these beautiful light beings, I have to say, like I didn't see a face. I didn't see it's just like energy. Like, they came up to me and I asked them, like, I just want to know, like, is my daughter going to be okay? They're like, your daughter's going to be okay. And I was like, okay. And a sense of peace. You know, when they say the other side is just so peaceful, it was by far, there was no chatter going on in my head. It was so calm. I felt the best I've ever felt in my life because there was no it was just so peaceful.
Yeah.
And I remember saying like, okay, you know, like I knew they were there. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. Like you can take me. I'm ready. Let's go. And they're like, no, you can't. Your mission is not done yet. I'm like, no, they're gonna be fine without me. Like I was actually ready to go because the feeling is just so peaceful. Like you're not really thinking of it. And they're like, no, your mission is not done. You have to go back. And then I don't remember how I went back. Like that was just the story.
And you could recall that even though you had lost your memory for a little bit.
Yes.
Wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
It takes courage. Yeah.
I think for me, motherhood has definitely changed my relationship with God spiritually. I feel like in the hardest moments, He was really my anchor, the only thing that kept me steady when I couldn't keep going. And I've learned to let go of this idea of perfection as a mom. I think I started out like I started out as a mom that just wanted everything to be perfect and kind of like works-based motherhood, you know, like your value is determined by how good you do or how much you do or how great you do. And I've just learned to let go. And I think through that, God has been like that perfect father that I needed in that season to just like shelter me, to give me strength, to resource me, to lift me up, to guide me, to encourage me. So even in the darkest seasons, it's really been my anchor. So I think motherhood has really brought me closer to God. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's a bit like, I think my marriage is probably incredible, like my relationship with my husband. because of our son. I would have
Wow.
to say, because of everything we've gone through, and it just made us stronger. Like
It solidified your bond.
100%. And we're like a team. Like basically, like we split. Like we have a system in the house. Because one of the first things we read about, and it was great advice, is that most families, when they find out a child is on the spectrum, they have to just like take away certain burdens, certain things that couples always bicker about, like who did the dishes, who did the trash, who did this. We basically remove this from our marriage. Like this is never going to be something that we fight about or we question. Like we kind of made a system that worked for us. So we took away all the other noise and pressures so that we could focus on our son and we could do everything for our son. So then we divided, like, who takes care of the house, who takes their education, things like that, therapy. And then we always come together. We make every decision for our son together. So, and I think when I look at other of my friends, and they complain a lot about like, their husbands don't do enough or this and that. Like, I don't have this. We're very, very much together, the three of us, like it was a little Three Musketeers situation going on. So that is incredible. And then the other thing I would say that it's definitely made me an advocate for other moms, other kids on the spectrum, for autism, in schools, in just any situations for those kids. Like I just got called into school a couple weeks ago because Theo was having some behavioral problems, and I swear, like my husband was like, "You're dressed up like you're going to war." I was like, it's war. Like, I'm gonna get, and and I would tell you, like starting that journey, I would just be the crying sob mess. Like, I know it's not like this, and I'm sorry, and apologizing. Like, why am I apologizing? Like, and now I went in very different. Like, what are you doing for my son? You said you would offer this and that, and very like much knowing how it also works in the system of education and making sure he has everything he needs and things are not getting away. And I so lucky now through school to have other parents for the first time this year I met that have kids also on the spectrum that are going to the school, and just talking to them, and just like we all are like that. It's this resilience that you build to being very much an advocate for your child, because who's going to do it if not you?
Absolutely.
Like,
Your son is very lucky to have you.
Yeah.
Very lucky to have you. And I love what you said in the beginning about you and your husband becoming closer.
for sure.
I think it's really beautiful because challenges of this nature can have the opposite effect on a marriage. So I love that you guys came together and you're united in the same mission to help your child. Yeah, very beautiful.
Yeah. The stats are high for children, obviously, when you're a parent of a child with particular needs. And also in my case, when you lose a child, it's the same thing of the divorce rate or separation rate, because it's just so heavy. It's so really heavy. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying.
And I was like what you were saying before too, like how you feel so lucky that your partner was there in moments that you weren't.
And that works out in the weirdest way for us.
Yeah.
When
Same.
I'm down, he's there. And all of a sudden I was good after, and it took a while. It took like 5 years. He crashed.
Of course. Yeah.
Because he was holding it. I
Yeah,
guess.
he was carrying
But then
the burden.
naturally and then I was okay. I was there. I was like, oh wow, I didn't even see that angle. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
now I see it.
You
So it's
carried
like,
each other's burdens.
yeah,
Exactly.
It just happened naturally, like. But so sorry, what was the original question? I can't remember now.
Like how
did motherhood,
yes, exactly. Like how did it change you
Okay.
from an emotional perspective, spiritual perspective?
Yeah. So on the spiritual perspective, I actually, I've always been someone that's very in tune to energy or into, just spirituality in general. And I lost it. I lost it when Rosie had passed. But then again, a huge other door opened, where I can act like I was seeking healing tools for myself. And I got into like sound healing a few years back before it became mainstream. I also got into, they're called intention circles, where you set an intention for one person, then you focus on that person with your mind, basically, and send them. The same idea as like prayer circles, or prayer groups, but it's not religious based. It's really energy, as I'm trying to explain. So when I asked you what you were saying, I just wanted to thank you for sharing that, because it's not always everyone that's willing to talk about that part. And I also discovered that I can do automatic writing and communicate with the other side. So I'm putting it out there right now.
Nice.
Can you expand a bit on that? What do you mean by writing and
So I'll go into a meditative state, and then I'll communicate with. I can usually send. I have an intention for who I want to reach on the other side, and then I'll go off and I'll write. Sometimes I just have my guides there, and I'll just write out whatever comes to me, and then it just. I have to kind of figure it out. I'm like, okay. And I didn't think it was authentic at first. I was like, okay, you know, you have Teresa Caputo and you have all these things. You're like, okay, what is this? And I remember when I was before we moved, it happened so naturally. And then I was doing it and I was writing words that I had to look up in the dictionary. Like I had to look on my phone.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't know what they meant. And they actually meant, I was like, okay, this is coming from somewhere else. It's not me. That's what validated that I was getting. So I was like, hey, this could just be my inner, dialogue that we all have, my subconscious. And then it's just started piecing it together. So yeah, I do that in my healing circles is I offer that to whatever comes through, I share for that person.
okay? Is it a sort of like mediumship?
I don't know if I call it mediumship. I don't know what to call it, but
Okay.
I find the word I feel comfortable with is that I'm intuitive, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
If you could sit with yourself on the eve of you giving birth for the first time, what would you tell that version of yourself?
You're going to fail, but you're going to succeed.
I think I would say you are exactly what this kid needs.
Oh,
I'd say that.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That ties into what I believe is that the child chooses the parent.
Yeah, I
100%.
believe
other
that
side.
too.
From the spiritual perspective,
yeah.
that's what I
So
believe.
that you totally
I totally
pinpointed it.
believe that we were meant to have our son the way he was. Yeah, because we're really equipped to deal with it. I mean, we are and we aren't, but I think the kid really gets the parents that they need. Hopefully most of the time. But that's what I would have said to me personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for myself, I would have told myself that there's going to be many days you're going to look at yourself in the mirror and you're not going to recognize yourself, because that for me, for motherhood, was the hardest. But it's going to give you an opportunity to find who you are again.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And not to give up, and just you're going to find a new groove.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
In what ways was it hard for you to recognize yourself?
I would look in the mirror and it's like I come from before, I still am, I was a business owner, so I would I would wake up in the morning and I would the whole day was designed. I had my son when I was 35. So there was this 35 years of me designing my life to Julia.
Yeah.
Waking up in the morning, going to the gym, going to a yoga class. I would be like, okay, just doing what I wanted
The
to do.
star of your own show.
And what really as a mother, what blew my mind was I was like, oh my God, I'm really selfish, because I really liked my life the way it was before. But it's not that I didn't like my son, but I was like, I was able to do what I wanted to do. When you have a child, that goes totally out the window.
Yeah, I can
You gotta
imagine.
ask to go to the bathroom.
Not even, they're with you. They're with you. They're with you.
You have to ask your husband, okay, can you just watch
That
the baby?
still doesn't go away.
No,
my
it
daughter's
doesn't.
11, and every time I'm in the washroom, mommy, I'm like, what is this?
Yes.
What is this?
Yeah.
I'll be out in a few minutes. Can you wait? Yeah.
So that for me was that's what I
Okay.
would tell myself the day before having a child.
Okay. I can't remember if you answered.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
But I mean, I can just, mine is a little bit, I guess, generic, but it would be expect the unexpected, because you can't forecast anything really,
Yeah.
other than the one thing that surprised me, I think, the most is the feeling of the love is so intense. It's almost toxic. It's almost
Yeah.
it's not more. It's
So
different than
true.
for my spouse, but it's yeah.
It's
Don't
so
you
true.
feel
It's,
like
it's
your
a love
heart
that I've never. It's a piece
expands?
of you. Yeah, it expands. Exactly.
It's a certain
Yeah.
size, and you have a child, and then
Yeah.
it expands, and you're like, oh,
It
I
can
didn't
do
even know
this.
I could feel to this
Yes.
extent.
Yes.
Yeah. Right there with you.
Yeah.
So true.
Let's talk mom shaming.
Okay.
Do you feel like it's something that you encounter a lot or that you witness a lot? On social media, even like as a non-mom, I notice it. Like when
So yeah, I can start this off. So I have a pretty big social media presence. Like I talk a lot about having a kid on the spectrum and a mom. Like so, it goes both ways. Like I've seen it in a lot of different ways. Like for me, there's mom shaming, and then there's also like not having a neurodivergent kid shaming on top of that, and no one thinks they are shaming you, but they kind of are by being a bit like saying something inappropriate or not being sensitive enough. I think what's hard with social media, and this is my career is also marketing for social media and brands. I think what's hard with social media is that there is really that fantasy of motherhood, really hardcore on social media on one extreme, and then there is the pure reality of the horrors of motherhood on the other extreme. Social media is very less about a gray zone and it's about black and white, I find, which is very toxic in youth and for women, honestly for everyone, even for men and things like that. I don't know if you guys have seen that show Adolescence on Netflix, but if you haven't, definitely watch it. It's really kind of showing you how social media and society kind of fails in this sense. So I think like for us, it was really interesting, like in the beginning, because none of my friends had kids. It was more like, whoa, like this is so different. Like I had a few friends that did. So I definitely didn't, like I definitely felt it to some degree, like they were all newly married or just like, living their best life in your 30s, which I've lived it too. So I totally agree. So it was just really like, there was no understanding or compensating for what I was going through. And then once Theo was diagnosed, that was even more surprising. Like I thought certain people like would be more, like I felt like he was almost like, I felt a hard time sometimes taking him to certain people's houses because he would have a tantrum or act up or want something specifically, and the moms or the parents, and both parents would like kind of react and look and not, so then there was this shame of like not wanting him around, like a lot of people that didn't understand how he was or what that was like. So there was definitely that. And and I think that was the biggest one I think I had to get it through. Social media, I find for me though, has been a place in a very interesting way. I think it depends on that energy that you also put out there, where I will literally say, this is my experience. I would love to know yours. And then like the moms come, and a lot of ASD moms have found me. A lot of people actually on the spectrum follow me and are very like, yes, like, I like my parent like didn't think about those things. I'm so glad we're progressing, that parents are more aware or school's more aware. So it's actually been this safe community bubble that I've kind of created there. But I think for me, the shaming part was more just because I had not a neurotypical child, and bringing him into other kids' homes would offset the parents,
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, that was long-winded.
No, not at all. It's very interesting.
Yeah, you were
Yeah,
very
active listening.
yeah, totally. To the point where I forgot the question again.
Mom shaming.
Mom shaming. What do I think about it? I think it's still
like-
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, well, in my personal experience with the people that were around me, I did not feel it at all.
Good for
At
you.
all. And I had a great community of moms when I lived in the city. That's what saved me too in that time frame. I lived in a condo, and like she lived right upstairs, and she had a son in like a week after me.
Okay.
So they were always there, and she became actually my daughter Melis' second mom when I was not there. So like when it takes a village, everyone says that. Like I had that village, I had that feeling. So there was no shaming. It was almost like I was so raw and open in the beginning of my motherhood that there was nothing else that I really knew. Like I couldn't see anything as, shaming at that point.
Yeah.
I guess maybe because of my perspective, but still no. But I understand. I see it on social media. I see, I see what you guys are, all that. But no,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't participate in it. I don't think.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I think as a mom, I felt under the microscope, but I don't think I've gone through intensive mom shaming. But just like micro analysis, where I'm like, "Oh, you're a little too close." I think that's happened a lot.
Okay.
especially with hot topics, like breastfeeding or formula or I'm not getting into it, but there's a lot of topics that people get very spicy
Divisive,
about.
over.
So I felt microanalyzed, but I haven't been in my face shamed.
Yeah.
Maybe it's coming. Yeah.
The same way. I don't never felt shamed or did I ever give it back, because I feel like we're all doing the best we can with the tools that we have. So, so that's my opinion.
Yeah.
What have your kids taught you about yourself or about the world?
Patience. And I'm a very
yes.
impatient person.
Oh, yes.
And I still need more patience. But patience, yeah.
I think patience too, forgiveness, grace.
Oh, yeah.
And that I take time to process. Yeah, because kids need time too sometimes. I take time to process, yeah.
For me, it's just that the world is not built for certain people. Like society is really built one way.
Yeah.
And I don't think that matters wherever you live. It's just that way. And we have a really hard time as humans understanding and being adaptable to anything that's a bit different or outside of us. So that's actually taught me, like I said before, to be an advocate for that and to also raise kind of my son understanding that society is not built for him. And it's okay that he is who he is. He should be fully confident in that, but that he is going to have challenges, like to be very raw about that there are things that are just really not built for him. It's going to be really hard for him, but I have workarounds in place for him that we've had since he was 2, and we will do it until our dying day for him. Like we will be there for him to make sure he has what he needs to be able to manage as best he can, you know? So, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Like there's so many things, but if I would pinpoint, I think what she's taught me, well, they both taught me many things. Rosie's taught me, even continues to teach me from the other side. So that's beautiful. But for my daughter Melody, I think that she shows me daily how like kids are resilient. Kids just keep going and they're curious. So that's what I think she just keeps showing me different things in life that help me keep on going. You know? It's like fueling me, so. Yeah.
And has becoming mothers given you perspective about your own mom and your own childhood?
Oh, my God.
That's funny. I was going to say that right now here, and I was like,
Take a few minutes.
yeah, that's a big one.
It is. That's it.
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We should welcome in our moms. They're here.
Don't you just feel like it's changed your perspective
100%.
about how you viewed your mom?
Oh my God, 100%.
And just like a moment of repentance of just being like, thanks, mom. I lost my mom actually in September.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, thank you. And a lot of retrospection, a lot of reflections, and a lot of just looking back on the whole idea of motherhood and just gratefulness for like how much they did the best they could with what they had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I think, I'll leave it to that.
And I feel also there's a sense of forgiveness that comes when you become a mother and realize like, oh my God, like my mom was going through all this and raising us. And it's like, you kind of forgive too on a level.
Yeah.
You become aware.
Yeah.
It's like we didn't know, right?
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I love that. I love the forgiveness. It's so true.
Yeah.
I think that's the key one. And for me also seeing just the generation of women, like my mom's mother didn't know her mother. And well, she had a mother that thought she was her mother for years. And when she was 12, was told it's your stepmother. Your mother passed away. So so that dynamic, I can say how it trickled through to my mom. Anyway, so it's just interesting to analyze, like to look at that and you're just like, okay, maybe that's why my mom was like that. Maybe that's why I'm trying to change this. Or,
Imagine our kids might someday have that same thought process.
Oh, they will for sure.
Crazy. For
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Melis?
I mean, I agree with everything that everyone has said. I think for me is just a lot more empathy for my mom and what she had to go through. And I also grew up in 8 different countries. So every 3 years, because of my dad's job, we had to move.
Wow.
And now the thing that haunts me the most is my dad was always working. So my mom was always alone with 2 kids.
Yeah.
And in a different foreign country with no village like we're talking about, that must have been so lonely for her. And I really think now, like, wow, like that's a heavy thing to go through, and so brave of her to have done that, you know, just so that my brother and I could have a better future and everything like that.
And most of the time, mothers are like struggling in silence.
100%.
You know, part of their role is like to shelter the kids from whatever it is that they're experiencing. So, hats off to our mothers.
Yes, 100%.
One last question: if you had to, I know we talked about advice and how it's not always helpful, but if you could give a piece of advice to new mothers or women who want to become mothers, what would it be?
Your intuition. Go always with your intuition. You know best for your child. You know what your child needs. Like, yes, you're going to hear all the chatter. Oh, try this, do that. But just go with your intuition. A mother knows best.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
You think you can't do it until you do it. And it's your journey, and it's you that is needed for the journey, and you're already equipped.
Yes. So good.
Go in peace.
My friend Ames, who is how I got here, she gave me the best advice because she was the only other person that had a kid besides me. She was like, don't listen to anyone's advice. She's like, including mine. She said, just don't listen to it. She's like, yeah. It was really simple. She was like, do not listen to anyone. You do you. Exactly what you said. You know best.
Yeah.
And I, till this day, after everyone gave birth, I was like, don't listen to anyone's advice. Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all that this is the advice that she gave you.
Love her.
Yeah.
Love her.
No, I'd have to say the intuition, obviously. Yeah,
Okay.
the intuition is a big one that I think we kind of lose along the time as humans, and the way that's, I guess, we're shown to live in the societies that we live in, and we need to hold on to it and teach our kids also to hold on to that intuition, right? So I'm actually trying to teach my daughter that right now, to navigate more with the gut and with the inside as opposed to. Yeah, so that's a whole other thing. But I would definitely tell the mother's instincts are on drugs.
Yes.
Like they're so intense, right?
That's
They're
if the
there.
portal
It's easy.
opens. Yeah.
It's easy. It's really easy. So it's an easy time to be vulnerable and access it, right? So to enjoy it, to enjoy listening to that intuition and acting on it too, not just hearing it, acting on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladies, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
taking
Thank you,
time out of your
Nadine.
This was
schedule.
therapeutic.
Yes.
Honestly, I was so happy, like watching you interact with one another and like bond over what you've been through as mothers. Thank you for your vulnerability, for your honesty. I feel very privileged that you agreed to give me your time this Saturday afternoon. So thank you.
so much, Nadine.
It's my
you.
pleasure, and maybe we'll do this again in a year or two.
It's a really good
Catch
idea.
up.
I love it. Love it. Yeah.